bringing you the best in country and Irish music. This is your station, irishcountrymusicradio.com.
Do you want your old lobby washed down? Do you want your old lobby washed down, Conshine? Do you want your old lobby washed down? When I goes to court, I says, here goes for sport. Do you want your old lobby washed down, Conshine?
Now, folks, that is, of course, Mr. Brendan Shine. And do you want your old lobby washed down? Well, would you believe it? We have Brendan Shine on the line. There, I'm even a poet. How are you, Brendan? Are you well?
Well, sure, I'm as good as can be expected now in the times that's in it. You know, I'm grand. I'm grand. That's, you know, there's no worries at all. It's grand. I'm up here in South Roscommon in total lockdown, but that's the way it is, and that's the way it'll have to be.
That's the way it's going to have to be. Well, times have changed in the last 55 years anyway, because that is how long you are on the road, if I'm not mistaken. Would that be right?
That's right, Jim. That's right. There's no doubt at all about that. You can't deny. The mileage is on the clock, and the facts are there to prove it, you know. Yeah.
And how did you get in on the music? Because you're like, did the singing or the accordion come first? Because you're famous for both now at this stage.
Well, I suppose the music came first. I was taught music on the piano when I was young, but the first accordion I played was actually a piano accordion, and then I joined a Cayley band as a singer, and at that time, you know, the band would play for 4 hours in those days, all Cayley music, and I used to only sing about 6 or 7 songs, so, you know, it was an unbelievable, be hanging around for 4 hours just to sing 5 or 6 songs, you know. So, there was a button key accordion at home that my father got in Walton's, and it was no tutor, it was a continental chromatic accordion, and nobody knew how to play it, and how my dad come to have it. Mr. All Walton man got round him to buy it. So I brought it along with me, and I used to sit at the back of the stage when the lads were playing, and I just got in on it, and I started out of boredom really. I started learning that accordion and playing along with the band, and that's how I really started playing the button key accordion. I went on then to the 5-row, and I'm back to the 3-row again because they're lighter and they're smaller now. You can get a smaller accordion, you know. But that's really how I came. Yeah, I suppose the singing came first, and the button key accordion came second, you know.
And so then you decided to go on the road then after that, when you got on your own then, or did I hear you used to be in your father's band then?
I was, yeah. I started with my dad when I was very young. Sure, I was only 12 or 13 at the time. We used to play at an open air dance down the road here, a maypole. It was called a maypole. Probably some of your listeners, if they're old enough, they might remember what a maypole was. It was an open air. I'll tell you, to be grand for the COVID now, because it was outdoor, you know, it was an outdoor job and no roof or nothing. And it went from May until September when we used to have those lovely summers. Sunday and Thursday night, an open air dance. And it was absolutely great. And there was no one in the band, only myself and my dad, and we were called the Paddy Shine and his 2-piece orchestra, if you don't mind. And we used to play there. And sure, I was only ticking along at the start. For me, poor old dad, sure, he had never a bit of hair left in his head listening to me, you know, trying to play tunes and that. But, you know, that's the way it was. There was great enjoyment. You know, we had very bad amplification. The band was kind of only secondary, and the crowds that used to be there was unbelievable. But they didn't, you know, the people just went out and danced and enjoyed themselves, and we were playing the tunes of the day, Perry Como songs, we were playing Hank Williams songs, and my dad was a saxophone player, and he used to play a bit of old jazz, and, you know, all those kind of in the mood and songs like that, you know, Zambezi and, you know, quick steps and foxtrots and waltzes and anything, a bit of an old Siege of Venice, everything. It's great entertainment. You know, it was the thing of the day, and, you know, it was, you know, in those days, before the big show bands came, you know, there was no great flash on stage. It was, you know, fellas up there playing a bit of music, and we sat down and we played, and there was no suits or no lights or no nothing like that, just got at it, you know.
And then you went out on your own, and you had what was it? O'Brien Has No Place to Go was the first.
Yeah, I had a few records before that. Bunch of Violet's Blue was my first hit. It went to number 2, and O'Brien Has No Place to Go was number 1 in 1971. But before that, I was with the Rex label, myself and Dana, Rosemary Brown, and I had songs like Old Ballymo and Tumbling Water, and you know, the Roses, the Banks of the Roses was one of my songs. And then I moved to it was actually Release Records at the time, and I started with them, and my second record with them went to a number one. That was O'Brien Is No Place to Go. I followed that on then with songs like, you know, The March of the High Kings of the Superband in 1972, and then I went back to Where the Three Counties Meet, Abbey Shrewl, Dun Leary. They were all number ones. New kind of songs written for me by Patsy Farrell at the time about my home place around here, and very, very successful. Went on to record some country music then in the late 70s, Turn Out the Lights, All My Roads Lead Back to You, you know, Some Broken Hearts Never Mend, River Road, which was, they were kind of, a country, it was kind of, I was moving into country music at the time, and they were successful as well.
And then, of course, well, you see, a song I remember, I was only a brat of a chap at the time, but right. I remember it played for weeks and weeks.
Did you ever grow with that? Were you still a brat of a chap?
I'm a brat of a bigger chap now.
Go on, you were saying, go on, what do you remember?
But no, Do You Want Your Old Lobby Washed Down?
Yeah, 1979, yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
That was absolutely huge.
That was the song of the year of 1979, and that was the year that the Pope came to Ireland, and it was in the charts for nearly all the summer. The Pope came in September, and when he was leaving Shannon Airport, last place he was Limerick, and he was leaving Shannon Airport. He did go to America, I think he was going. The brass band, when he was walking out to the tent, said, "Do you want your old lobby washed down?" So that's how big that song was that year. That song crossed over to England. The BBC played it. Terry Wogan, Gloria Hunniford, you know, all them people played it non-stop. I recorded it in German. It was played in Germany. I recorded a German version of it. It was a huge, huge song, and you know, even to this day, "Do You Want Your Old Lobby Washed Down" is you know, stands up with any of them. And I suppose anywhere I go, I nearly have to do it, you know.
Yeah, it was like, all I remember that whole summer was that being played the whole way through, like, you know, it was fabulous. Like, there was a great sort of, it was very catchy. There was a hook there. Do you want your, and even today when I was advertising, you know, I mean, just I had it up on Facebook about doing an interview with yourself, and the amount of people that were saying about, is he still washing down the old lobbies because we need,
well, I have the devil washed out of it now, I'll tell you. It's as clean as ever it'll be, you know. No, it's one of those songs that stood the test. And there was great songs down through the years in the Irish scene. You had Simon Says, "You Want Your Old Lobby Washed Down." You had Larry Cunningham with Lovely Leitrim. You know, you had Brendan Boyer with the Hucklebuck. You know, you had Joe Dolan with all these great songs, you know, but the Answer to Everything was probably one of his first great number ones, you know. And any of those songs that were number ones a number one in the charts them days meant something, you know, a lot more than now, because now you have so many different charts. There was only one chart in Ireland, and we were competing with all the pop records, jazz records, country records, folk. It was all the one chart, you know, and you had to compete with American artists, with English artists, with, you know, Elton John, Cliff Richards, you know, all those songs were there, and you were competing with them. And to get a number one in those days, it meant a lot more than I think it does now, you know.
Yeah, and of course, when you're mentioning all the, what you could call standards or the standouts, like bacon and cabbage.
I'm a savage for bacon and cabbage. Yeah,
bacon and cabbage.
A friend of mine called Tom Moore, the late Tom Moore. You know, there was many Tom Moores. There was the great Tom Moore years ago that wrote the great poetry, and then there was a Tom Moore that wrote, a Canadian guy, I think was here in Ireland, and he wrote some great songs as well. But there was a Tom Moore in Athlone, and we got together and we wrote a few he was a great man for writing parodies, and he'd write the words and I'd do put the music. Carrots from Clown was on, the Dungeons from the Crockery. He wrote about local things around Athlone. Clown is where my grandfather came from. We used to grow carrots there. They were very, very famous carrots. And down in the Crockery, down a couple of miles from here in South Roscommon, was the home of where they made the Dungeons, the clay pipes.
Yeah.
So he made a song about that. And another one was about I'm a savage for bacon and cabbage. I don't know where he got that from, but it was a most amazing song. And I get loads of requests for that, and especially from young, believe it, I must be the title of the song, young people. If there's any, young kids at a concert, they'll always sing me the song about the savage and the bacon and cabbage, I suppose it's just an old thing that rhymes, but a bit of nonsense really, but, it was amazing what, it sells a lot online. Now, would you believe it or not, that song sells a lot online. A lot of music is sold these days online, and that is one of the songs. When I get the returns, it's unbelievable the amount of people that buys. I'm a Savage for bacon and cabbage. Another one called Irish Elvis Presley. He wrote that too, and that sells as well. And Murphy's Dancing Pig was another one. So it's unbelievable. I think people just buy those for think the title is funny or something,
Yeah, because, is there any song that you could say that is more Irish than I'm a Savage for bacon and cabbage?
Yeah.
It is, go ahead, sorry.
Well, he makes reference to the same thing. He spent some time in England. He spent some time in England, Tom, as well. And he calls the bubble and squeak. I think bubble and squeak was the equivalent of bacon and cabbage in England. It was, I think the English people used to fry the bacon and the cabbage together, and that was called bubble and squeak, and that's mentioned in the song as well. Now, I won't be an expert on that, but I believe that's what that's all about.
If you went over to the States, did you actually ever sing that song in the US, in the States? Indeed
I did, but in America, they would be more interested in when I play in America. I went to America first in 1967, and I would be into America nearly every year since, and the big songs in America was, where the three counties meet, O'Brien Has No Place to Go, the older ballads back in the older days, and then when the Roads of Castlereagh came along, that was a huge song, both in, Chicago, Boston, New York, and all Philadelphia, and all those people where there was Irish immigrants. They really loved that song. But, the Irish music, the Cayley end of my music was always very, very popular in America as well. And the old songs like The Old Bog Road, The Woodlands of Loch Lynn, Patrick Sheehan, and them great songs, that the great old Irish ballads were always very, very well appreciated in America. And even still to this day, there's even the people that have Irish roots, or a lot of American people now follow Irish music, and they have no Irish in them at all, but they just love Irish music, as people do all over the world. Irish music has got a niche there. If there's any trace of Irish music at all, they just love it and they go for it,
Yeah, you see, because but where I was going with the bacon and cabbage, of course, as you were saying there about it's corned beef and cabbage. Would you have changed the words now to suit that?
No. I know they're into corned beef and cabbage. That's the big thing. That's the big thing on St. Patrick's Day, around St. Patrick's Day, and that they use that a lot. And a lot of those old customs are dying out now too, and you have to move on, and you have to try and give the people a different view of it now. And Ireland's a very, very progressive country, and we don't live on bacon and cabbage anymore. It's more takeaways and Indians and Chinese and all that kind of thing. It's hard for the older American people to believe that culture has developed so much in Ireland,
Yeah. And of course, there's a lady, Tricia Watchhorn, says, one of her favourite songs is, Where Did You Meet Her? I met her in the Galtymore, of course.
Oh yeah, well that's only very recent. That song was only written recently. That song was written by a man called Cyril Curran, a man from Donegal, who lives in Rugby or Corby. I can always get those two places mixed up in England. He's in Rugby or Corby, and he teaches the violin. He was the leader of the Asaro Cayley band years ago. Lovely man, Cyril Curran, and he wrote that song. And when the Galty closed, I decided to do it. I had it for a couple of years, and I decided I wouldn't bring it out until the Galty had closed down. And then I just did it on a television show on it, and Lord Cheery, just to try it out. And it was such a success. We brought it out as a single, and it has got a lot of plays everywhere. Where did you meet her? Again, as you were talking about, do you want your lobby washed down? The catchphrase, like most fellas or most girls, when they, if people meet in a pub or meet in a disco or meet at a party or something, and they're introducing their opposite partners, when they go to the toilet or move away, the first thing a guy is going to say, where did you meet her? It's probably one of the most popular phrases that people will get,
Yeah, where did you meet her? I met her in the Galtymore. Of course, sadly, the Galtymore no longer on the go. And I'm sure
I didn't realise how big an institution the Galtymore was until I recorded that song. And, down over the last 5 or 6 years, I have people that come to me, even in America, people in England, people in all over Ireland, young people come up and say, our grandparents met in the Galtymore, and people say our parents met in the Galtymore, and, my sister and brother used to be talking about the Galtymore. So when you think about it, when you think back about it as a researcher there, back in the early 60s and 70s and 80s, the Galtymore opened, I think Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And they used to say that there did something like between 15 to 20,000 people go through the doors on those 4 or 5 nights it was open. They had 3 halls in there, and, you could have anything from 2,000 to 6,000 or 7,000 there a night. So it was unbelievable amount of people. When you think of all the people that met there, when you think of all the drink that was spilled, and when you think of all the rows that was in it, it was an amazing institution,
Yeah, and I'm sure you packed it out a number of times yourself.
Yeah, I've had many a great night in the Galtymore and Cricklewood. And it's a pity that it's gone. I know it wasn't a viable proposition near the end because the crowds had dipped down a bit, but you see, everywhere, it was never replaced, no matter how tried to replace it in the London scene, they weren't able, because the Galtymore was an institution, and people came in from Bristol, they came in from Swindon, they came from Cambridge, they came from all over England, not alone Irish people. They came to the Galtymore on a Saturday, Friday or Saturday night, because it was a place that everybody met. Buses came from all different areas, and they all assembled there because it was just a big meeting place, And then nowhere else was able to fill its shoes then, No.
Well, when you think of it, you see, there was a huge Irish presence over there at the time anyway, you see, and I'm sure, there was more than the Irish. If you wanted a good night out, you went to the Galtymore and all these places, and that was the way it worked. And of course, as there's less in the place then, there's less call for the like of a venue like that. So unfortunately, when you can fill a place, well, it's able to take 6,000 people.
Oh, it's amazing! It's amazing how things change. You look at the Bronx. You look at the Bronx or Woodside in New York, who was back in the late 50s and 60s. It was an all-Irish community, completely all-Irish. Now that's been replaced by Hispanic people, Colombian people, and at the same in the Galtymore, in around Cricklewood and Kilburn, I believe it's all Polish people and all, Romanian people, and they are now the predominant people in that area. So, and the Irish they don't go there anymore. Anybody Irish that goes to England now, they probably go down to the Wall Street, or down to where the city where they work in the city in the banks and things like that. So it's not like people going over to work on the buildings in England like they did years ago,
No. Julie Healy, she's one of our presenters here on the station, and she says one of your best songs, she says, is The Village Where I Went to School.
Yeah, Julie, I know Julie very well. We meet Julie on the cruises, and I meet her on the trips to Spain and Portugal and Declan's, Holy and place like that. Yeah, Julie is a great performer herself too. The Village Where I Went to School was written for me by a man called Shag Connors, who was an English country kind of a folky artist he was in England. He had a band called the Carrot Crunchers, and he wrote some lovely songs for me. He wrote The Pub Crawl, he wrote The Old Country Home, he wrote The Village Where I Went to School, and he wrote the song he sings about his own hometown. He came from the Cotswolds, down in Cirencester, outside, in the Cotswold area. That's where he came from. And I became very, very friendly with him. Unfortunately, I only knew him. We worked on the same music publishing company in London, and that's how I got to know him. And he wrote some beautiful songs. I have a lot of his songs recorded, but unfortunately, the man got cancer, and he died very, very quickly. And he was a great loss because he was a great talent. The Village Where I Went to School, he actually came over here to my place, and I brought him around all the local area. When somebody comes to visit you, and I said, went round to the village and around the local area, and I showed him the schoolhouse. I went to school and the local church where I used to play the organ at the church and drum and all the usual places around. And next thing he wrote me a song. He was so impressed with the whole area, which, that song can apply to anywhere that anybody is, because the Village Where I Went to School is where everybody has their greatest memories, because if you meet a child, that's only 4 or 5 years old, the first thing he'll tell you about his school, and he'll tell you about his new school bag, and he'll tell you about his start of school, and he was telling you about the fellas that his pals in school. And if you go to a very older, and I was at a 100th birthday party, I believe, 2 years ago, and I was chatting to the man that was celebrating his 100th birthday. And, I wasn't talking to him for 2 minutes when he started telling me about the fellas he went to school with, Mind you, there wasn't too many of them there left at the birthday party. But what I'm saying is that the school days leaves an indelible mark on everybody's life. Yeah. And, no matter where you're from, no matter part of the world you're from, you always remember the village where you went to school. And a powerful song, and Julie is right.
Yeah. And Maureen Burke she says, catch me if you can. My name is Dan, I'm your man.
Written by a man called Christy O'Connor, who comes from the famous O'Connor's pub in Salt Hill in Galway. And he was in America when he wrote that song. And, I'll tell you a story about Christy, that was a huge hit for me, including Dermot O'Leary, the man that presents the X Factor. That was his favourite song when he was a boy, and he came to the concerts to see me. And of course he fell asleep. He was only young for about 8 years of age. He came to hear his favourite song, and by the time I came on stage, he had dozed off and he was asleep. But the mum and dad brought him in. The mum and dad, his parents were from Wexford actually,
Oh, yeah,
and they came back. They're back home living in Wexford now. Brought him into the dressing room, and I sang the song for him, and he had one eye open and one eye closed, and then I'll see you again. I didn't see him for over 32 years when he appeared on the Late Late Show one night. He was looking for me, and he knew every word of that song. I waited with myself and Ryan Tuberty, surprised that then the following week he was doing a signing in Dublin, and we zoomed in on him, and he sang the song with me, and he danced a bit of old music, and a very, very intelligent man. He knew everything about it. Was his favourite song, and still is to this day. So that was a great song. But to tell you another story about Catch Me If You Can, Christy O'Connor wrote that, and it was a huge hit, but he never got a penny out of it. And the reason was because he used the air of Turn Out the Lights and Love Me Tonight, which was another song of mine. Kick off your shoes, turn out the lights and love me tonight. And when that song, Catch Me If You Can, was top of the hit parade, the people in America, believe it or not, the people that wrote Dill, I think Bob McDill was his name, and Alan Reynolds, they were the people that wrote Turn Out the Lights. They got onto it, and they claimed all the royalties in that because they reckon he stole two or three or maybe 4 bars of the actual original song of Turn Out the Lights. So it just turned out very, very sad for Christy,
And even the lyrics, they're able to get everything
right.
No,
the air, it's the people that write it's the man that writes the air holds the power.
Yeah.
No matter what lyrics you write, there's several lyrics written to different songs, but the man that wrote the air, wrote the music, he's the man that takes all the royalties, no matter what to do,
Yes, fortunately, if you happen to be the man writing the music like me, but unfortunately, if you happen to be the lad writing the lyrics.
Yeah, it was because it was a very joyful song, it was great about, the fellas, and another thing about that is, that was back in 1981, I think I had a hit with that, about the lads going off to Listowne-Varna, and take the bus from Varna down to Listowne-Varna is a line in the song, And little did I know that my grandchildren would be living in Barna, and my second daughter, Philippa, lives in Barna. She has 4 children, 4 little boys down there, and they live in Barna. So, it's amazing how history repeats itself, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I have John Dunn, and he was saying about the 3 pubs in Bohola. He loves that song, he says.
Yeah, well, when that was a song written by Michael Cummins, and Michael Cummins, who was the great Michael writes of the Farmer's Journal now, and he's on television and he's on radio. I think that was one of Michael's first songs to write, and I had a television series back in the 80s called Nice and Easy. Yeah. And on one of the series I brought on Irish songwriters to feature their songs that I had written, and I had recorded most of the songs that they were writing at the time. And at that stage, it was very, very hard for even to get a play on national radio. So I said, here's a chance now to showcase some of these great songwriters, men like John Duggan. I had Tom Moore, the man I was talking about earlier on it. I had, Patsy on it, or was Patsy still with us at the time? And anyone else that had written songs for me, and I brought them out and featured they talked all about their songwriting, and it was a great boost. Like, it meant that a lot of people got in touch with them then, and they got songs covered by everyone else, and they went on to write some great stuff after that. But the Three Pubs in Bahola was written about the village of Bahola, which is quite close to where Michael Cummins comes from, and there was 3 pubs around the green. I didn't know if there were any of the pubs left now. Somebody said there was some of them closed, and naturally there's pubs closed everywhere. But that's what that was all about, and a very, very popular song too, especially in the Mayo area.
Now we have a young gentleman up there in Duleek in County Meath. His name is Ian Arnold. Now I'm not sure whether you remember Ian or not, but he's a huge Jerry Guthrie fan, right? And he goes down to the Gleneagle every year, or for the last couple of years. He's in a wheelchair, but he's well able to sing and all that now, and he's the highlight of his trip every year is to hear Brendan Shine singing Shoe the Donkey.
Shoe the Donkey. Oh, sure, I probably know Ian. He probably comes to the Gleneagle. We were there every year at the Gleneagle. Unfortunately, we lost it last year, but hopefully it'll be back. And I've been there for many, many years on a Tuesday night, all through the July and August and into September. And Shoe the Donkey, yeah, that's an amazing one. I was talking about Shoe the Donkey last night on the television show on YouTube. That happened when, how that came about was, that old piece of music, which is called The Air of Vienna. And that was been around for years and years and years. And there was people it's a dance really. It's a figure dance, Shoe the Donkey. And, Paul Chaffee was doing his day in the bog in Knock Airport back in the late 80s, I think, or 90s. And, where he was doing this day in the bog out beside the runaway at Knock Airport. Yeah. And he was going out to start the live. Everything was being recorded. And he was going out to start off the broadcast, and there was videos being made, and he had me up on an ass and cart and another lady called May Hunt, and we were sitting on bales of hay, and there we were taking off, and Paul Chaffee, Russell ran out of something to say. He said to me, Brendan Shine, would you play a bit of music on the accordion? And seeing that we were on the donkey and cart and going to the bog, the only thing they could think of was Shoe the Donkey. So I played Shoe the Donkey, and then Paul Chaffee decided that he was going to take the day in the bog, which he did, out to America, and was a huge, huge success when they brought the bog and everything out to America and ran that big function today in the bog in Yonkers Raceway. 30,000 was at it. But myself and John Duggan sat down then, and we said we would do a little song in memory of the great event of going to America. And John put the words to Shoe the Donkey for the beat. It was called The Beat on the Pete in New York, and that's how that song came about.
God help us. There's usually a great story behind every song too, isn't there?
Well, every song, of course there is. Every song has to have a message, and every song that I ever recorded, I wouldn't record a song unless it meant something to me, and it has to have a message, for the people out there too, there's no point in you recording songs that you like yourself. You want to record songs that you think people will have an interest in, and people can relate to, like, and how many people in Ireland can remember going to the bog and cutting the turf and going on the old donkey and cart. Like, sure, everybody that lives outside of Dublin 4 knows what it is to go to the bog and cut turf, you know?
Yeah. Oh, it's a fact truth. Like, I mean, you know, well, sure, I even went out now, we had a little Ford 4.6 tractor and went out to, and it was up on the mountain because there would be too many bogs where I'd be a kind of a mountainy man down there in Wexford, but I know where you're coming from, yeah.
I know, well, I'm talking about long before that. There was no 4.6s or 135s around here. Well, the old donkey, we used to call him the Jerusalem Jeep, he was called, you know. He was called Edward with the long ears. He was the man that transported everything to the bog. He was the 135 of a different era, you know.
But sure, they called the Ferguson 20 when it came out, they called it the Grey Ass.
The Grey Ass, well, that's it. There they are, yeah.
Yeah. And, well, actually, that was actually something I was going to say to you, was that you would be seen very much as a storyteller, as a singer. Like, I mean, that every song that you have released would be a kind of, there's always a story in it as such, like, you know what I mean, like your Shoe the Donkey and your you Catch Me If You Can. You know what I mean, every song that you had, there was a sort of people, as you said, people can relate to it.
Well, that's it, yeah. You know, I was talking about Shag Connors there, the man that from England, and the other thing, he wrote The Village Round the School, but on my latest CD, he wrote a song when I took him to our local church. It's St. Bridget's Church on the hill in Drum there, where I used to play, and he wrote a song, and it was probably the last song he ever wrote, and there was one called Thank the Lord, and it's an amazing song. I have it on my new album and on my new DVD. And, you know, it's the general idea of the song is that, you know, I can run and walk and laugh and talk. I can hear and I can see. And that's kind of why he was thanking the Lord for every day if you get up, if you can do any of those things, you're doing very, very well, you know.
You're not doing
But it's amazing how it was probably the last song that he ever wrote.
Yeah, and he was thankful for everything that had gone before him. Yeah, the irony of it is there, like, you know. So, yep. Ron Hinsley is listening in, and he says that his favourite song from yourself, Grandad.
Oh, the Grandad song, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, a song, you know, amazing song again too. It, you know, it was, Ollie Kennedy and Danny Slevin from Edenderry, and Ollie Kennedy from the Foster and Allen band that I got that song from. And when Ollie Kennedy played that song for me, I said to him, you know, have you played that for Tony Allen, you know? And he said, I didn't have, Tony knows it well, because I said, I think that's up Tony's street, you know? And he said, no, he said, Tony wouldn't sing that song. And I said, well, I said, I'd sing it because I'm just after having a couple of grandsons myself, so I was delighted to sing it, and I recorded it, and it was a very, very successful song, a very moving song, a very true song, you know, very, very true. The words are very, very true in that song, you know.
Yeah, and you actually sang about the Celtic tiger just before it came in and just before it went as well.
Well, he left as quick as he came, you know, that fella, the Celtic tiger, you know.
Although I didn't notice him arriving too quick now or making too much of an impression. Maybe you did, but he did.
He did. There's no doubt the Celtic tiger came in with a burst, and, you know, we thought that we were on the pig's back for the rest of our life, but of course, he left, he ran out of steam somewhere along the lane. He ran out of steam when he crossed the Shannon anyway. He just got across the Shannon and kind of lost steam then because, it ended there. But, that song, The Celtic Tiger, God knows I can hardly remember it now. It didn't stick in my mind too long, you know.
Yeah, and the Bold O'Donoghue, Mr. John Maher, is after...
John Maher.
Yeah.
Well, the Bold O'Donoghue, we did a rock version. It's a kind of a Cayley rock version that we do of that. Yeah. It's a great old Clancy Brothers, or the great folk song, the Bold O'Donoghue. But we do it in a kind of a Celtic rock thing, and it's a very, very well played, a very well appreciated song, and it's great for people to get an old jump around and things like that, you know. There was a man at the BBC, used to, Danny, what was his name? He used to play that, and he had a pop program, and he used to play that all the time, believe it or not, the Bold O'Donoghue, yeah.
Oh, really?
My version of it, yeah.
Yeah, because there was a bit of a kick in it.
Yeah, well it is a kind of it's a rocky beat to it, you know.
Yeah. And when you're mentioning the BBC, and you mentioned there about Nice and Easy as well, you've had a few television shows like the Nice and Easy, and Shine On, if I'm not mistaken, was another show of yours.
Yep. Shine On, was a series of, Shine On was a series of, and I did a couple of documentaries too for RT. I did Shine on the Shannon years ago, which was My Ireland series, and I did a documentary, called Crossing Alabama, which I followed the footsteps of my granduncle who was shot by the Ku Klux Klan in America in 1922, and I went out there to follow it was in the, you know, Would You Believe series of the television thing, you know. And that was, you know, there was a great program. It was about this man. He was a brother of my grandmother, and there was a photograph of him up in the house at home years ago. And all we knew was that he was a priest, and we knew that he was shot in America. And that's all we ever knew. And, we started, researching the whole story then, and then RT took it on board, and I went out to Alabama, and it started there. I started from his roots in Drum, and he went out there, and he was, he married a Baptist minister's daughter to a Columban that was, and the father didn't agree with it. So, he married them at 10 o'clock in the morning or something. When the father found out, who was a member of the clan, he came up and he shot the priest on his porch as he was saying his office. So that's really what it was, and there was a big murder trial and everything, and he got away with it. So it was, one of those things down through the years. Very sad story, yeah.
Yeah, very, very sad. Like, things happened back then, yourself, and unfortunately, unfortunately, the life, yourself, hopefully is changing. Hopefully it is changing. And would you like to do more television now, Brendan, or?
Well, television has changed extremely. I was delighted that I got the opportunity to do some light entertainment. We had a 45-minute slot every week there, in the Nice and Easy. Our Two's Company was our main guests, and I had all international guests, and I tried to stay Irish. I would like to, have had all Irish guests, which I nearly had all Irish guests, which was a great thing because, everybody has to stand up and do their thing for their own countrymen and their own fellow musicians. But entertainment has changed now. People have so much things in Netflix and, they have so many things that the concentration level of people, you couldn't sit down and put on a program now for 45 minutes because people would, they'd be flicking to different channels. And, that time we had only two channels, RT1 and RT2 generally, and, people kind of, when they were on, they had to put up with, there was nothing else to look at, so, but nowadays, I think people wouldn't, I don't know, they have their own entertainment now on their phones, they have their entertainments on their laptops, and, and that's where they find their entertainment. It's a pity there's not more Irish good artists on the general run of the shows, but just was Late Show and things like that. That was the only place that they put on any entertainment, really,
Yeah, it's very, very, times have changed that way, alright, There's, actually, I tell you, there's a few people out there sending me messages here. Marie Byrne was actually saying to me that, this is the message, she says, 1979, she says, that was the year of, Do You Want Your Old Lobby Washed Down? She says, that was the year I was married and all my aunties from Manchester absolutely loved that song. So,
why wouldn't they? Yeah. Yeah.
And
1970. It was also the year the 2FM started. It was a great. It was a lot of things happened in 1979. Believe it or not,
Yeah. And now Tom McCracken is listening in over there in England as well, and he's saying a quick hello there to you as well.
Hi, Tom. Yeah.
And then we have Lev and Gloria who are tuned in there in New Brunswick in Canada. And
in Canada, my God, New Brunswick,
yeah, New Brunswick, yeah. And
well, greetings to them all in New Brunswick from very peaceful Ireland now, a very quiet Ireland.
Very, very quiet. Well, there's not a whole lot happening anyway. There's not a whole lot going to happen. But Valerie Wild is listening in South Africa. She's
really?
A big fan of yours as well. And
my God.
Yes, and Michelle Orr is over there. She says she's always been she said when she heard that you were going to be on, she said, one of my favourites, she says. And she's over there in Bedford in England.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I know Bedford well, yeah. I travel all the roads and the back roads of England over my career. I've been playing in England for, nearly 30 or 40 years. And, it was always, the people were always very nice to us,
And there's two people there, Dion and JP from South Africa are listening in as well, and they're big fans of your own, and they said to say hello to you, Dion and JP. Yeah.
Well, very, very nice to know that you're listening way over there in South Africa, and keep listening to the music. The power of radio. Radio has been the greatest friend of me down through the years. The press and the radio were always very, very good to me, and I must say that I was very, very lucky in that respect, is that the press and the radio, all radio stations and all journalists took to my music and were always very, very not always very complimentary, but they always give me a mention. And a bad mention is as good as a good one, if you get it in the right place at the right time,
Yeah. So, the way it is, if you watch, of your bad judges or your mean judges on any of the talent shows, usually what happens is they say something mean about someone that they want to win, and everyone votes for them. And it's, so as you were saying there that, your bad mention can be every bit as good as your good mention, because if you get a bad mention, your fans will turn around and say, hold on there now, we don't like this, so we're going to back him.
Well, there's no such thing as bad publicity. There's no such thing as bad publicity, because anything that keeps, if you're in the public eye, and if you're out there in that medium, all kinds of publicity is very, very valuable, whether it's good or bad, because, the bad, as you said, the bad publicity, people get their tails up and they say, who the hell are they talking about, or what are they on about? And it can be of an advantage too, but, we definitely wouldn't be in the limelight. We wouldn't be on the road, or we wouldn't be anywhere, only for radio and for, the press and that. So I owe an awful lot to those people as well,
Now we have a lady that's about to turn 20 at the weekend, and her name is Kaylee. She's otherwise known as Baby Cakes. And now I'm not sure whether you'll be able to put together a song about baby cakes and maybe...
Baby Cakes, Kaylee Baby Cakes, yeah.
Yeah. But it's her birthday at the weekend.
It's a long way from the savage to bacon and cabbage anyway. It's a long way from that. She's having her birthday, is she?
She's having a birthday there. It's on the 17th. So that'd be what? That's actually Saturday. So, yeah, Saturday. So if you wouldn't mind saying a quick happy birthday to her, Brendan,
Well, I did. Well, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kaylee Baby Cakes. Happy birthday to you. Okay, have a great day. Have a great day, Kaylee.
It's been brilliant. And if you wouldn't mind saying a quick hello there to Patricia Watchhorn. As I say, she's a lady, and she rears hens, and she has lambs, and she's a kind of a menagerie of animals there around the house, I'm told.
Where does she live? Where does Patricia live?
Would you believe she lives in the county of Wexford as well, in a place called Bulladora in County Wexford. And she has loads of hens and geese and ducks and lambs and everything around the place.
I wish her well, and hello to her. And the only other Watchhorn I ever heard of was Patsy Watchhorn, that played with the Dublin City Ramblers, and then he wound up, he played with the Dubliners in the latter on. So I think Patsy, eventually his people came from Wexford originally, Patsy Watchhorn. He was the first man to record Dublin in the rare old times, a lovely singer with the Dublin City Ramblers, and also, as I said, he wound up with the Dubliners. I think he has retired now. I read a piece about him on Ireland's Own, really. But anyway, that lady, she's a great lady. Keep the hens going and keep the lambs going, and that's Mother Nature on the doorstep. That's what you want.
Yeah, well, we'll have to call her Mother Nature after that anyway. Now we'll say that. Yeah. And now there was a gentleman called, he used to be in the Madcaps with myself. Like, remember we played with you in the Bogman's Ball a number of years ago, but his name was Aaron Redmond. Now, his mother and father, would you believe it, met at a Brendan Shine concert over in a place, Rathnewer Hall, way back
I knew it well, and Rathnewer, I remember Rathnewer, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's where they met, and so Marie and
I hope his father didn't blame Brendan Shine now.
Well, I'm sure there was many an argument in the house, the same as any married couple. And maybe
it's not the first time I heard that. I heard that many's the people met at our gigs. When you're a long time on the road, I started out very young, and I was 55 years on the road. So we meet a lot of people met, and a lot of people. I meet some people, their grandchildren now tell me that their grandparents met at a dance we played at years ago, because that's where everybody went in the early days, like long before discos, the Cayleys, the show bands, the dance halls, the parish hall. That's where people went to meet, and that's where all those people met. So, it was a great place for people to meet. It was the only place in those days. People have so many different platforms to meet now, and so different places to meet. But there was nothing like, the old one-to-one job across the floor and having an old dance and asking someone out. And, as the one in the Galtymore says, I asked her, would she marry me? And she said she might, which, a lot of people, that was kind of the language that was used, and it was kind of very, very tongue-in-cheek. And a lot of fellas often met the girls, and there was no going out courtship for a long time. They just met, and after maybe 6 months, he asked her to marry, and they married her, and they got married, and they got on with it. And that was it, they were happy ever after.
Yeah, well, Marie and Owen anyway, they're still together after all these years, so obviously whatever effect a Brendan Shine concert had on them in Rathnure Hall back, what was it, sure, it must be 45 or 6 years ago, it seemed to work anyway, so they seem to be very happy anyway, happily married. I think they had an anniversary only recently, like, so...
Well, congratulations to them, and I'm sure they had a very, very happy life, and I'm delighted that they met at one of my gigs years ago. Yeah.
And actually, Patricia has come back to me, and she says she remembers all the crack in Adamstown Hall all those years ago. You would have been
Adamstown, yeah. The Farmers Hall with Danny Doyle and Jimmy Galway and them fellas in Adamstown. Yeah, there's no doubt it was one of the great institutions. It was a great venue, and I always loved. I think it was called the Farmers Hall. I think that's what it was actually called, the Farmers Hall in Adamstown. Yeah. And it was absolutely great. It was one of the jolliest places you could go to play. And the people were lovely, and they had a great time, and they were never in any hurry in, and they were never in any hurry home. So it was, that was the great thing about the old halls years ago. It was hard to get them started, but the dances had finished maybe around 12 or 1 o'clock. Sure, at 3 o'clock in the morning, the place would be full. There'd be people chatting and talking. You couldn't get the gear out, and they didn't want to go home. People were so happy, and it was great. It was great times.
Would you be able to get the mug of tea at the same time?
Well, of course, that's all you got, is a mug of tea. That's the only thing. But the tea and the mineral bar. I have a new song on my latest DVD. It's called The Parish Hall, written by P.J. Murray. And it tells all about the old dance hall, and, about the mineral bar and the cloakroom and hanging up the coats and, all that kind of thing. And a lot of the young people probably think we're talking over the bushes or talking over our heads, but they were the places that everybody went to, and that's where, a lot of our grandparents met, and indeed a lot of our parents as well met at the old parish hall or the dance hall. And it's nice to remember that, it's nice that young people have a great interest in listening and finding out about those things that happened years ago and how their parents met, and because life was so different then. It's so different now. Like people are on a different, they're on a different platform totally, which is great, and people enjoy them. So great. Now great facilities, like, once you have your beep phone in your pocket there, so you can go around the world in 2 hours you can and get everything that you want. We didn't have those facilities years ago, but what we had was probably more valuable things. It was more human approach, It was you were talking to people all the time. Everybody knew everybody wanted to know everybody wanted to know everybody else's business, and it meant that you did a lot of talking, and you did a lot of asking the questions and a lot of answering the questions. Now it's all done on a 2-inch screen,
Yeah, and there was many was the night that there was a queue outside of a phone box in the local street, because it was the only way for a lad or a girl I'll ring you at 8 o'clock, and if there was someone else in the phone box, you weren't a bit impressed. Come on, hurry on, get out there. I'm waiting for my call. Yeah. So, we used to have a fella who used to hold up the whole local phone box, because he when he was leaving, he hadn't great sight, this fella, and he was ringing somewhere. But he brought instead of ringing the phone number where he was ringing, he brought the herd number. And it was the herd number he was ringing. And of course he wasn't getting anywhere. And the line-up of fellas, what the hell is going on here, He was holding up the whole place. There was a lad was waiting, he had a date with a woman, and he wanted to ring her, and he was going tearing his hair out, And your man inside trying to ring the herd number. I'd say when your man came to test the cattle and he was looking at the phone number, I'd say there was some crack on that one too.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm just noticing the time here, Brendan.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I was supposed to be somewhere a half an hour ago.
Oh, geez, sorry about that.
But that doesn't matter. I enjoy talking to you, and I enjoy talking to all those people and all your listeners all over the world, and I wish them so much well, and it's a great opportunity to talk to them and enjoy the music, and, hopefully when all this mayhem is over, we'll get back out on the road again, and we'll get around to meet all those people again, and have a good old, let the good times roll again. I don't think they'll ever be the same, but we'll get back to some form of it, maybe in a smaller setting, or, it's whatever it's going to be, whatever it will be. it will be. And I'd say maybe in a year or two time we might get back to the old open air. Maybe I'd go back and do the Maypole again, which was the open air dance from May until September, where you were free of all COVID and all those things out in the open air, you know.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, when I think of it now, like being listening that summer to Do You Want Your Old Lobby Washed Down, and then I didn't think in a number of years after that I'd be actually interviewing the gentleman, the legend that was singing that song. So it's great to have had you on, Brendan.
It's a pleasure as always, and thanks for having me. And as I said, good wishes to all your listeners. And you know, everything they have said is very, very true. And I appreciate people that comes on and asks questions about something like, you know, good songs. All them songs were good. And when somebody asks a question and mentions a song, it means that they have listened to that song and it means something to them. And I'm always be willing to tell those people how it came about and what the story behind it. And it's great. It's wonderful. And I really enjoyed my time talking to you.
No problem at all. It was great to have you on, Brendan. A pure privilege. And thanks a million. Thanks a million for taking the call.
And good night to you, and God bless.
I'm going to leave it off here with one of Brendan's. As I say, I'm a savage for bacon and cabbage. Thanks a million, Brendan.
Thank you.
When I see the bacon with the smell of the cabbage, I'm weak. If you're Irish, then next to white pudding.
Bringing you the best in country and Irish music. This is your station, irishcountrymusicradio.com.